Viewers, Assalamu alaikum, and this is CNI News. I'm Ali Mohsin Hashmi. As you know, over the last 3 months, we've actually seen Indian part of occupied Kashmir has been under a siege. It's been under curfew. There have been a lot of voices, and today it is a great privilege that we have got a very prominent figure from the Azad Kashmir part of Kashmir, a former Prime Minister of Kashmir, Barrister Sultan Mehmood, a very prominent figure from the political sphere. Sir, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to... First of all, why are you here in the UK today?
Well, I am here just to apprise the international community on the atrocities what the Indians are committing in occupied Kashmir, and certainly we are going to have a million march on 27th of October in Brussels, and I want to mobilize the people so that they could come there, and we have started million marches from 2014 on 27th of October from Trafalgar Square, London, and then we had in front of United Nations in New York in 2015, and this year we are going to have in front of European Parliament and European Union, because we think Brussels is equally important because the NATO offices are there, and Brussels is the capital of Europe. So we are going to have a million march on the 7th of October. So we are hoping that there will be a lot of people from UK who will also be joining march.
Barrister Sultan, my question to you is, over the past 90 days or 92 plus days, Indians have almost besieged the whole of Kashmir. Is it, and there are a lot of Kashmiris and a lot of Kashmiri organizations in the UK, they're actually talking about plebiscite, they're talking about right of self-determination, whereas you are the only politician who's actually talking about human rights. How important is it to you actually get that curfew taken off?
Well, we are talking for right of self-determination for last 69 years, and that is our main demand. And we certainly, last year when we had a demonstration and a million march in front of United Nations. We also had a march about 15 days ago in front of United Nations when the Indian Foreign Minister came to speak. And certainly our demand is to implement UN resolution, which clearly means that the future of Kashmir has to be decided by the free will and the aspirations of the people of Kashmir. But now for 90 days, the most issue is the human rights violation. It's the first time in the history that international community is speaking on Kashmir. This is the first time that international media is speaking on Kashmir, the pellet guns and the way they are treating violation. So the both things are going hand to hand, but our most stress is on human rights violation at the moment.
One important question is that I was speaking to a lot of British politicians, and when you actually talk to British politicians, they actually question that there are a lot of Kashmiri organizations, and one of the comments made by some of the Maqbuza Kashmiris is that Kashmir cause has actually been affected in a detrimental way by the organizations who are actually in very small numbers, do a lot of protests, whereas you come here and do million marches. How important it is, do you think, for people to unite on single platform?
I think it's very difficult for everybody to join in one party, but certainly all the political parties, when we say million march, we had 2 million marches before, all the political parties are united, and we are not going to have a million march even this time on one party platform. We have a code of conduct that there will be only one Azad Kashmir flag, because occupied Kashmir have no flag, and there will be only slogans of right of self-determination, human rights violations, and we will carry the banners equally everybody agrees on. So all the parties are going to involve as they were involved before.
And from strategic lobbying point of view, I know that there is a strategic agenda that you're following. From strategic analysis, can you please let us know finally what is the strategy behind the lobbying in the international pressure groups to affect Theresa May or the British Parliament to actually exert extra pressure on India?
In fact, I'm just coming now from Stoke, where I met the members of parliament, and they have told me that they are going to move. In fact, they have already tabled a resolution in the House of Commons condemning Indian violation of human rights and for Kashmiri's right of self-determination. And in Birmingham, I am also meeting some of the members of parliament and ask them just to mobilize in the House of Commons. And similarly, when I will be in Brussels, I will ask, we have a very strong group, all parties group, in the European Parliament as well. So we are opening all avenues, like going to foreign offices, going to United Nations, going to the parliaments, and going to the human rights organizations, so that they should know what is going on in occupied Kashmir.
Finally, after Brexit, what is your message to the business secretary and British government who actually wants to do a lot of business with India?
I think that this is the one of the thing that we are asking Great Britain, that the way India is violating human rights, the atrocities they are committing. So I think this is a duty of Great Britain, because the Kashmir dispute started when British quit that part of the world. So we are asking them that it's their duty to solve Kashmir issue. And what my information is that at the moment, since there is a tension at the line of control between India and Pakistan, United States, Britain and China are playing a very important role. And I'm here to tell them to play more active part.
Well, thank you very much, Barrister Sultan. We wish you all the luck for the Million March. Viewers, as you know, that we recently spoke to the former Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir, Barrister Sultan Mehmood. What we're trying to do now is trying to gauge with how informed the British public is in terms of the atrocities which are actually being taken and carried out in the occupied part of Kashmir. I'm going to be speaking to some of the people around, and here I have with me. Hello, sir. My name is Ali. What's your name?
Steve George.
Mr. George, can I ask you, what is your understanding of Kashmir dispute at this present moment in time?
Well, not a lot really. I know that Kashmir is disputed territory between India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And there's various things go on there on occasions, but there's not actually much reported in the British press.
Okay, so, and we actually, every day of our lives, we actually see, hear, and lobbying groups, pressure groups talk about Syria, we talk about various other places where human rights violation takes place. How much do you know about human rights violation that's being taken place in India?
Again, it's not widely reported. I do know it goes on, but details are very sketchy in the UK. No one seems to be paying much attention to it. It's probably a bit further away. Probably an embarrassment to Britain as well, having been, the part of the empire and such like. So they probably don't like to talk much about it.
What would be your view if I told you that for the past 96 days, people have been besieged in their houses, they haven't been given access to water, medical facilities, schools, colleges, children have been attacked with pellets, the guns that you use on animals, and they have been denied media access. The media has been, it's a complete blackout. United Nations doesn't want to do anything, and it's a resolution that was passed back in 1948. How would you feel about that if I told you all of that was true?
I'll be very disturbed about it, actually. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. Human rights, everyone's got a basic human right, and if they're being abused, then something should be done about it. And there is an argument that Britain should get involved.
And do you think, now that you know, do you think you would do something about this? Maybe speak to your local MP and say why this issue is never reported on TV?
It's certainly worth a thought. I've got his email address. I can drop him a line and see what's going on. In fact, the local MP actually lives around here.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
And what would be your message to those Kashmiris who might be watching you from India right now?
Well, don't give up hope. The rest of the world should be listening. I'm certainly interested to know why it's happening. What's the basis of why it's going on.
Well, we leave that thought with you, and thank you very much for your time. Viewers, as you just noticed, that we've just spoken to someone who, happens to be a British citizen and within the dwelling of this particular building where we did the interview, and, it is an issue which does not actually get any airtime on British television screens. The question is, why? And this is the question I don't know the answer to, and public doesn't know the answer to. Let's just carry on talking to some of the other people. As you know, we've been talking about Kashmir issue. We've just recently interviewed Barrister Sultan Mehmood, the former Prime Minister from Azad, Kashmir. What we're trying to do now is just trying to speak to locals. We're just trying to speak with the neighbouring citizens and just trying to engage what is their understanding of the issue that we're discussing today. Hi, good evening. My name is Ali. What's your name?
Tim.
Tim, firstly, what is your understanding? I hope you enjoyed your meal tonight.
Yeah.
What is your understanding of Kashmir? When the word Kashmir issue comes to mind, what comes to mind when you hear this word?
Well, I know that Birmingham's got one of the largest Kashmiri populations outside Kashmir itself, so there's a lot of food and culture that we're exposed to and appreciate in this area. I don't have a deep-seated political understanding, but I do understand, generally speaking, that there's been a conflict of opinion about where Kashmir belongs in terms of the separation with India.
So conflict of opinions. How far do you think that opinion goes?
And I understand there has actually been some real conflict and dispute over the dispute. Yeah, over disputes over the ownership or the kind of governance of Kashmir.
And what is your understanding? How does that affect the people of Kashmir?
I would imagine, and I can't profess to have any deep insight, but I would suggest that people feel disillusioned and frustrated, and as in any situation where they feel that they're being governed by another country or another power, that they may not want to be. Okay,
so if I told you over the last 70 years or so, Indian part of occupied Kashmir has always been subject to human rights violation, to the extent where figures reported by India are 67,000 casualties to date.
Really?
And more recently, there has been curfew for the past 96 days, where children, a bit like yours, have been subject to pellet guns, and they haven't been given access to medical facilities. They don't know a word called school. They haven't been given access to water. Shops closed and no media access. How do you feel about that now?
Well, I think that's obviously a travesty. It's also quite shocking in the fact that we are not exposed to this in large scale press coverage, especially in an area where there are so many Kashmiri people, descendants living. And it feels like as though it should be a more important story in the Western media, and there should be more understanding and transparency about what's happening there, because we're not really informed about these things.
Those Kashmiris who are watching you right now, what would be your message to them?
Well, I hope that there would be an end to any human rights violation. I feel all children have an entitlement to a good quality healthcare, education, safety, comfort, no form of abuse.
Freedom to be able to breathe. Freedom to be able to breathe, more important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. You enjoy the rest of the evening. And who do we have here?
I'm Jake.
Hi, Jake. So we briefly talked about the issue in Kashmir. Obviously, you now, I'm not sure if you were previously aware. My question to you is, if I told you United Nations in 1948 passed a resolution that people of Kashmir should be given the right to self-determine which part of the government they're going to fall allegiance with. It's either going to be Pakistan or India, or form a country of its own entity. How would you feel if that hasn't been executed to date?
Well, I think there are other examples where the UN have specified what should happen, and that's not happened in disputed territories. In general, I think we trust the UN to know what's best, to take the most balanced view. So if the UN comes out with a pronouncement saying this is what should happen, then I'd generally be disappointed that that's not what's happened.
Finally, if you know that there has been 67,000 casualties 96 days of curfew where people have been denied access to medical facilities, water and their businesses and livelihoods. How do you think Britain should respond to it?
I think Britain should raise concerns, and I think they should, particularly if they're going to support some of the people in this country. I know we've got a big Kashmiri population here. They should be bringing it to the attention of. I presume we're talking about India here, who are a partner.
Who we want to do a lot of business with.
Yeah, and we need to be talking to India about.
Well, Jake, we're running out of time, but thank you very much. Due to address a gathering of local politicians, local entrepreneurs, a local social political activist, human rights activist, and this is actually a strategy meeting where he will be talking about his Million March. And the view is that he will be talking to the local communities and community leaders to actually mobilize the community for that particular Million March that he intends to start off on the 27th or 24th of October, somewhere in the in the last 10 days of October. He has already expressed that he takes personal interest in human rights violations being taken place in Indian part of Kashmir. Barrister Sultan Mehmood, who's actually come here from Pakistan, who's also been the former Prime Minister, and he's actually talked about this Million March that he's actually conducted over the last 3 years quite successfully, and he's now here to mobilize the people so that the awareness about Kashmir issue and the human rights violation that's widely taken place, we will be covering there. And from now, signing off from CNI News, this is Ali Mohsin Hashmi with Ali Kazmi and Sayyid Abid Kazmi, the producer.